Guilt and Innocence in Julius Caesar by David Daiches. Let me begin my inquiry by asking, what is guilt? If we assume that there are forces of good and of evil both at work in the world, then we might say that the guilty man is one who cooperates with the forces of evil to increase evil's effectiveness in human affairs. Innocence is on the side of the good, guilt on the side of evil. Or so it would be pleasant to believe. A closer look at life convinces us that innocence often achieves evil. If Brutus had been a less simply virtuous man, he would not have helped to kill one of his best friends and brought tyranny to Rome, the opposite of what he intended. If Othello had been less innocent, he would not have trusted Iago, and so he would not have been brought to murder his wife. If Hamlet had been less of a sensitive idealist, he would not have destroyed his own house as well as the house of Polonius. A more worldly Brutus, a less morally sensitive Hamlet, a tougher and more cunning Othello would have done less harm in the world. The first tragic problem faced by Shakespeare in his maturity concerns the ambiguity of innocence. That's because he's a man. Every woman knows what innocence is.
Shakespeare's Rituals on the opening scene of King Lear by William Frost. Ritual is probably connected with the nature of dramatic art at its very core, if the theories of anthropologists and classical scholars be correct. And like disguise again, ritual can operate to free both actor and playwright from the demands of strict verisimilitude, for the participants in a rite are assumed a priori to act parts and to speak language not simply their own or natural to them as individuals, but traditional or appropriate in some way to a publicly acknowledged occasion. I should like to extend the term ritual here to include any speech or situation which will be felt by participants or spectators to be predictable in important respects. Ritual has these characteristics, at least. It is ordinarily public, it is deliberate, it is presumed to be predictable in outline, if not in detail. When Richard is sent for, it is known that he will give up the crown. When Claudius assembles his court, he has already decided what action to take against Fortinbras. Such a scene as that, as the opening of Act 1, Scene 1, Henry IV, has has some elements of a State of the Union message and some of those of a presidential press conference. Like such throne room scenes, trial scenes are normally intensely public, and while their outcome, as in Measure for Measure, may actually astonish participants and spectators alike, the fact that there will be an outcome of a certain kind is well understood in advance. Since ritual is frequently felt to express simple appropriateness to an occasion at least as much as practical purposive utility, the sort of language used in it can be heightened in various ways without appearing needlessly artificial. This fact, no doubt, partly accounts for its frequent appearance in verse drama, especially whether of the 17th...
Final reading, because I just saw silverfish in this rather old book, and it kind of grossed me out. Silverfish are like these wiggly things that you find in books, especially in the tropics. Anyway, here we go. Shakespeare's Politics by Eric Bentley. Melodrama presents the struggle of right and wrong. Tragedy, on one famous view of it, the struggle of right and right. Shakespeare's Coriolanus. Sorry, I laugh because the last two syllables sounds like anus. But anyway, I digress. The struggle of wrong and wrong. That's what makes the play so hard to take. As one of Henry Luce's anonymous spokesman recently indicated, the American theater public insists on some characters being simply right and others simply wrong. He might have said the same of any other public, American or un-American, in the theater or out of it. We all view life as melodrama insofar as we are fools. Only to the extent that we are men can we see it is as tragedy or comedy. Now, though our folly is by no means confined inside theater walls, our humanity is very easily left outside them. For we are wholly foolish when our individuality is lost in mob emotion, and any crowd of people, including an audience, can become a mob. Tragedy and comedy always tend in the theater to decline into melodrama and farce. Those critics who are the mob's representatives praise tragedy and comedy precisely in the degree that they do so decline. Hamlet is as exciting as a whodunit. The would-be gentleman is as funny as room service, etc. If it is hard, then, for a producer to put across a tragedy or a comedy, how much harder for him to put across a play that combines the more forbidding features of both to the exclusion of every melodramatic and farcical possibility. Such a play is Coriolanus. It is absolutely nothing but a masterpiece. We almost have to feel sorry for it. Except that it hurts our feelings, gets under our skin, affronts our prejudices, and corrects our convictions. It is the most modern of Shakespeare's works in the sense that modern writers